Hello, this is Don Cusic with the Music Biz, and today my guest is Mike Allen with WTVR in Richmond, Virginia. He's the operations manager. Mike, let me begin by asking, how did you get started in radio?
Well, Don, I was 14 years old or 15. I decided I wanted to be in radio. So what I did is I hung around radio stations emptying trash cans until someone finally gave me a job as a part-time disc jockey. That was 22 years ago, and I just sort of fought my way up through it.
And where was this?
This was actually in Richmond, and I was at that station probably 6 months and moved to Norfolk and was with the station there for 10 years.
Okay, let me ask about a program director, because the program director is overall supposed to be programming the station. What is the overall goal of the program director? What does he want out of the station?
Money. Really, if the station has good ratings, of course, the personnel, the program directors and such are going to make money also. So his overall is to control the flow of the station and to get the ratings he needs to make the money for the station so he can live.
And how do you get that?
Hard work, research now. It used to be all just gut, but it's a lot of research involved in getting the right people that would match up for your market, the sound you want, for a flowing sound rather than just you be on before me and we don't sound anything similar, and the flow of what we're doing doesn't sound right, you lose people. So the program director tries to smooth us all out to make it a 24-hour continuous sound.
How do you measure success for a radio in a market?
By ratings, if that's what you mean.
From Arbitron?
From Arbitron, from Birch, not so much Birch as Arbitron, but the measurement is done by these ratings. You can't really buy into those either, but it's the only measurement you do have.
Okay, and some of the things that they talk about are quarter hour. What does that mean?
Quarter hour is the number of listeners you would have in a 50-minute segment. A quarter hour, like between 9 and 9:15. You have the average number of people listening and how many you cume, or how many tune in, tune out during that quarter-hour period.
Okay, about cume. What does cume mean?
Cume is the people you have tuning in and tuning out during that period. How many you're actually getting in that quarter? Do they stay with you? That's quarter hours.
But in cume, a longer period of time?
Cume is a longer period of time, yes.
And the term demographics you hear all the time?
Demographics, that's age groups.
Yeah.
It depends on what type of station you're programming, what demographic you're looking for. In my particular field with country, 25 to 54 is the normal demo for us.
And you break that down to male and female, who's listening at what time?
Right.
How about the hot clock? You hear about that all the time. Hot
clocks are not as popular as they once were, say back in the 70s with rock and roll radio. Hot clocks, it basically lays out the format, what you do at a given point, and you follow it like a Bible. When we use them, my company doesn't use a hot clock. I give you a book when you come to work for me and you read it and learn it, but there's no hot clock per se tell you this happens here, this happens here. You know it. Some stations have an actual clock, a pie, if you will, with indications as to what to do at a given point, and you just follow it totally.
So you know when the news is, you know when
the
an
next
ad
is, what records are back-to-back, where you segue, where you talk. A hot clock will tell you exactly what to do. You may talk between this record and this record, but not after that one. And you follow that. It was a good programming tool at one time, but we're heading back towards personality radio now. And the hot clocks really don't fit like they used to.
Yeah. How do you decide what records to program?
Whoever sends me a check. That's seriously.
If the check doesn't bounce.
If the check doesn't bounce, then we play it. When records come in, and we probably receive 300 records a week, they're sorted into stacks. Now, a music director who has been in the business for any length of time will know that who an artist will be that will be a hit or has a better chance. We'll call that the A stack. Then you've got a B stack of new artists that maybe will do it. And you have a C stack of people you've never heard of, on labels you've never heard of, that will get listened to by most stations. My music director does listen to every record that comes in, and I listen to half of them. And of course, you're going to go with the established artists first, and then to the newer artist. And once in a while, you'll get one of these out of the C stack that will make it on. An example would have been back in the 70s again. Mel Street, who became a superstar, was on a label called Tandem Records. Well, no one ever heard of Mel Street. Nobody heard of Tandem Records. I guess probably 500 copies of that ended up in the trash can. But one music director somewhere listened to that, and it was a hit.
So it's possible for radio to receive a great record on a small label and it to be a hit.
Sure. If you've got the people in the stations that really care about the music they're playing. The idea is, Johnny Cash can put out a record. Doesn't mean it's going to be a hit. He maybe has a better chance than someone else, but it doesn't mean it's going to be a hit. Somebody in that small stack, that off-the-wall stack, could be another Johnny Cash. If you care about the music you play, then you listen to everything, or try to, everything that comes in.
But how many major stations, major markets, major reporters do that?
Darn few. Research, again, it depends on your market. But in the major markets, they're going to go with the hits, the heavy hits.
Okay, what other factors go into whether you program a record? Like request, if you get a lot of requests for something.
Request, really not a good barometer.
Why not?
Because you'll get, let's say you put out a record. 5 people like you very much. Those same 5 are going to call 50 or 60 times to hear your record. And nobody else really cares. So the fact of the request, somebody's requesting that record, really doesn't mean a whole lot. It does mean something, but not a whole lot.
Suppose you get 100 requests for a new record you've put on, or maybe something that your competition's playing.
If they're playing it, I'm not, and I'm getting a lot of requests, I'll take another look at the record. I could be very wrong. If I still think the record is not suitable, I don't care how many requests I get.
There are always old stories about people who would, organize a little group and request this record and get it on the air and get the DJ's attention, and then people would hear it and it would take off and be a hit. Are you saying that that's not possible now?
That doesn't really happen. You could end up with what we call a turntable hit, whereas in, let's say, Norfolk, Virginia, you were a local artist, and you put out a record, and people called and requested, and it got on the charts. You're a local artist, and we have a lot of requests, and it sells no records, though. It's not really serving anything, because we've got this big hit. It's top 10 in Norfolk, Virginia, but they've sold 15 copies. So you don't really make hits that way.
How about sales? How about if you know stores are selling a whole lot of records
that means
you're not playing?
That I'm not playing?
Yeah.
I can't see that really happening. But if it did, then again, I better look. I'm doing something wrong. If they're selling a lot of product and I'm not playing it, I'm doing something wrong. A record that is that hot should be played.
How about the competition? What your competition's doing? Does that make any difference?
Yes and no. I don't counter-program, if that's what you mean. I have my own style, and most programmers do. If they're doing something that I really like, I may alter it and use it. But I won't let them dictate what I do, no.
How about charts? Trade charts?
Trade charts? They're useful. You can't really put a whole lot of faith for your local play into a national chart, because what's happening in L.A. doesn't mean a whole lot of what's happening in Richmond, Virginia. However, you can, I have a percentage, and I don't really want to get into how I do my chart, but some of it does come from Billboard, from Gavin Still, and from R&R. One of the formula, I use figures off of these.
Yeah. One of the complaints that you always hear in the music business is that radio won't play something unless it's on the charts. It can't get on the charts unless radio plays it, and that you people in radio will watch, and if a record gets top 60 with a bullet, then you'll play it.
There are a lot of stations like that. Yeah, there are. In our particular case, no. Has nothing to do with what I don't care if I've played records that never made Billboard, and were darn good records. So a lot of stations, at one time, I guess that was the rule. If it wasn't in the top 50, forget it. We're not going to play it. I see a fast move away from that.
Now, how many records did you say you got per week to listen to?
It varies, 200, 250.
Some of those are dupes, though, aren't they?
No, I'm talking about
different records.
Because I get a lot of small product, small label product that comes in, and I'd say probably over 100 a week of really small labels.
Now, if the small label, if a promotion person does not call on those small labels, what's the chance of anybody hearing them?
Hearing the records? If it's a good record, on my station's good. If the product is good, I don't care if the promotion man calls me. It doesn't really mean, it's nice to say, hi, how are you, but he's not going to convince me what to play.
Well,
no more than I can convince a producer what to produce.
Yeah. Well, why do so many call? They must have some influence out there.
They do with some people, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know. They can put you onto a record you may have not listened to. That's happened. But as far as swaying someone, I'd say probably not a whole lot.
So you've never had the experience of not wanting to go on a record and a promotion man, I'm talking about hype or payola, but convincing you with facts that maybe you should go on that record.
There are really no facts that he could give me for my market that would sway me. If the record wasn't right for my market, then I'm not going to play it. No. There have been, and I'll look back through the years, there have been records I did, quote, favors on. And not for payola or anything like that. But that would be a record that was going to be a hit. And the guy needed an extra point that week or something for the trades, and I'd help that way.
What's on your own playlist and on your own charts, how different are they from the national charts? Is there a major difference, or is it pretty similar?
It's pretty similar. It really is. If the hit's a hit, it's going to be in the national, it's going to be in the local.
Why is that? I mean, you're in radio, you're trying to program to a local market. You pride yourself in keying in on Richmond, Virginia, but yet musically, we're national.
People's tastes are about the same, I think, coast to coast. And a hit is a hit. In Richmond, let's say the record's #1 in Richmond, may not reach number 10 in Los Angeles. So there's where the difference would be in the charts. I've had records that hit #1 on my charts that didn't hit top 15 on Billboard. But I did have local facts and sales, the request, and things like that indicated that record is #1 in my market right now.
So what you're saying is basically a hit is a hit all over the country. Richmond is just like Sacramento and LA there, but it might be #1 there. It's just and number 10 out there.
Right.
It's small differences.
It's still a hit.
Okay. Do you play any local acts?
Yes, we do. We program local bands if they merit airplay. We have a lot of good local bands, and they deserve the exposure. They're playing in the local clubs, and people like them.
How do you decide if they merit airplay?
I listen to them, and if the record is of air quality, when I say merit airplay, a lot of records come in that really, the quality of the record is bad. The group could be great, but the record itself, the pressing stinks. It was recorded in somebody's basement, and it's just bad, and the band doesn't sound like that. I'd be doing them an injustice to put it on the air.
And you put these records in regular rotation?
Regular rotation.
Right beside Conway Twitty and Charlie Pride?
Right next to them. Okay. But we do tell people, this is Joe Blow's band from Richmond, and if you like the record, you can see them at various clubs. I don't plug an artist in a club at the same time.
Do you think a local act can get started to be a national act this way? Has that happened in your market?
In my market, no. In Virginia Beach, it happened when I was there. I've seen it happen many times, yeah.
Texas has been big for that, hasn't it?
Sure has.
From Houston and Dallas?
They got a lot of good bands in Texas. Mercury recently picked up 2 or 3 real good bands. They're on their label now. They came off small labels out of Texas. One that comes to mind would be like the Maines Brothers, which is a down-home, ass-kicking, honky-tonk band, and they're good. And they came off a small label out of Texas.
Is that one of the ways that radio can help the music industry? By finding these local acts and exposing them? I
think so, yeah. It's always a two-way street, even though record people will say no and most radio people say no. You have to help each other. You really do. The idea is to get the best product to the listener, for me, and for the record companies to deliver the best product so they can sell. And to play a record like a favor record. You're in charge of Mercury Records or whatever, and you call me and say, look, I need help on this record, and I know it's not a good record, but I play it. It's not going to sell. You're not going to make any money. People aren't going to like it. I'm going to lose listeners. So I'm not really doing you a favor.
How much input do you have to the labels on what they record, what they release, any of that?
What they record, probably very little. Producers are very independent. They do what they want to. You can pass word on what you think would be neat. As far as what they release, a lot of really good records have been pushed off of albums and made singles by music directors, program directors, saying, hey, this is a hit. Take it off the album and go with it. A classic example, of course, is Easy Lovin', which sat on an album for a couple of years until some music director somewhere says, hey, look, this is a good record, and he started playing it.
When you get an album, you listen to the whole thing, you play album cuts?
We play album cuts. Yeah, and we feature an album a week.
And if the cut gets a lot of response, you turn around and tell the label?
Well, again, we're back to request and such. You're saying a lot of response. What's a lot of response? 5 calls called and says good. Someone who's been, yeah, we do use that. Don't get me wrong, but someone who's been in the business a while can generally hear a hit. Be it a record man or a radio man, they can hear the hit. It's there. And there are a lot of them on albums that will never be out.
How about negative requests, negative response? Have you gotten that from records?
Yeah, recently, as a matter of fact. New record by Ray Stevens, which is an old Paul Kraft song. I'm sure that is being played in Nashville. It's Me Again, Margaret. A lot of negative on that. Awful lot of positive on it, too. But it's going to be a hit record.
Why would you keep it on if you've got all these negative requests?
Again, you're talking about a minority of listeners. Rule of thumb for us has always been 1 call for every 100 listeners. If you get 1 call that hates it, that's 100 listeners that hate it. If you get 6 that like it, then you got 600 that like it. So most people won't call a radio station.
Yeah. I was going to say, because that's the principle of all these polls, principles of Arbitron, that, you know, they're surveying 1 people for a whole lot of other people. So maybe that 1 request means a whole lot more. Maybe it means more than 100.
Could. It could mean less. There's really no way to determine. You have to sort of build your own formula for that. You know, we do a lot of call-out research. Rather than you calling me, I'm going to call you and ask you what you like.
How do you decide who to call?
At random. Phone book.
Just go through the phone book?
You bet.
Don't you get a lot of people who don't listen to the radio? Watch TV instead? Or?
Yeah, you get those, and you just don't include them in the survey.
What kind of questions do you ask them?
What their favorite songs are at the time, what their favorite radio station is. And I use that research. If you have another radio station in town and you're number 1, and I see that from my survey, I'll let you know. I'll pass it along. Of course, I'm going to look see what I can do to get you. But, you know, asking questions like that.
You don't say, I'm from WTVR, and I want to know if you've heard our...
Well, what I do is I have a bank of 3 people that call, and they will just say they are conducting a survey. And at that point, the survey is really independent. It's in-house, but it's independent because the people that are doing this research don't really work for me. They're contract workers. They come and they can give a damn less what the results are. So I use different people each time, by the way. And then I have a research director that puts everything in a computer, and we fish it out.
Okay. There's been a big change from AM radio to AM FM radio
to FM radio.
To what is it now? Is there a difference in programming AM and FM?
Yeah, but it's changing again. Yeah, there is. If you think back, FM at one time was wall-to-wall music. There were no commercials, and the AM stations were the ones that were really tearing things apart. Then the swap occurred where the FMs became that way, and the AMs were still holding their own. Now the AMs, most of them aren't doing much of anything. I have an AM and an FM. My AM, if I get a 1.5 in a book, I'm a very lucky guy. My FM is getting 11s and 12s. There's going to be a use for AM radio somewhere down the line. I don't think it's going to be the music medium, though.
One of the problems with AM is sound quality, right?
Sound quality, yeah. Signal strength.
FM, you can get a better signal. It sounds better in your home. Is there still, who's listening to AM? Car people?
Car people. Yeah, a lot of car people. You know, people that still only have AM in their car. You listen to AM for information a lot. You know, in our town, the old line station, and still number 1 or 2 in the market wherever you look, is an AM station. But they're doing news and information with contemporary music. But it's predominantly the news and information that locks these people in. So,
who's listening to your station? Who's listening to country music radio?
Everybody.
Everybody.
I'd like to think so. Who is listening? The surveys we've shown in our market, predominantly white-collar people now. We did some surveys, and we had a lot of physicians, lawyers. It's not the old line of country like it used to be. That, I guess the urban cowboy craze helped country radio a lot. Of course, that's dead now. And those that came in, of course, there were a lot more country stations when that occurred. Everybody wanted to jump on the bandwagon. Well, they're falling to the side now. They're changing to something else. So
well, if country music's so popular, why would they fall to
It's
the
not as
side?
popular as it was. You know, you're talking about a fad time. Country was a fad with the urban cowboy thing. And those people now have gone back. But there were some that were closet listeners at the time that have stayed. So you're getting back down to another core audience.
Is this reflected in sales? Are people buying from that?
Sure, you
Okay,
bet.
because I keep hearing that sales aren't reflecting airplay.
Well, yes and no. Airplay, again, it comes back to ratings. And ratings sell.
Okay.
So
you
it's a
mentioned
vicious cycle.
Yeah, you mentioned the 25 to 44 demographic. Is
25,
that
54.
to 54?
Right.
That's your primary
That's
age.
my primary age group.
How about male, female? Is it equal? Is it?
At my station?
Yeah.
Predominantly female.
And this includes morning drive, afternoon drive, as well as all day?
6 a.m. to 12. 6 a.m. till 12 midnight.
And it's,
That's
and it's
overall.
primarily women the whole time?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the afternoons at my station, it's men. That's where the changes. Of course, I have a lady on in the afternoon. That may have something to do with it.
What do men listen to in the morning?
Oh, they listen to me.
Mm-hmm. It's just that more women listen to you?
More or less, yeah. I think that most men in the morning aren't listening to the radio, to tell you the truth. If they are, they're listening to rock and roll.
Or,
And they come
self-help
back.
tapes?
Or something, yeah, in their
Yeah.
car. I'm not to say we don't have the men. It's just the predominance is still women there.
Mm-hmm. With people building onto their TV set, with the VCRs, with satellite dishes and all this kind of stuff, and TV, cable channels being the future, is there a future for radio?
Sure. You're not going to put a TV in your car. Radio will always be in your car. Radio will always be in your home because it is probably more immediate than TV is. And that's going to help us. You get into the cable stuff and you've got the Nashville networks and MTV that are showing videos. Now that's great, but how many times do you want to see an act do that same song? It loses it after you've seen it maybe once or twice and you just want to hear it. So why bother? Radio will always be around and will always be a very popular medium, I think.
Why is that? I mean, you've got a lot of competition in the car now. You say you can't put TV in the car, but you can put cassette tape decks, and people do.
True. How many cassettes are you going to buy this year at $8, $9 a pop? And after you've heard your latest Jimmy Buffett cassette 4 times in your car, are you going to put it in again? Or are you going to see what's new, which is going to be played on the radio, and you hear a new record that you like? Maybe you'll buy the cassette for this artist that you hear on the radio, but you heard it on the radio.
But
it's going to be there first.
But isn't the role of radio more than just playing music? Aren't you striving to be part of the community?
Oh, sure. Sure, but music is your product. You work the rest in, yeah. We definitely want to be a part of our community.
And what are the things you do to be part of your community?
Oh, we're involved in so many charitable things that it takes up a lot of time. We're out doing whatever it takes to be involved in the community. To be specific would be hard, but we're all over the place. We're in
That
touch.
includes local news?
Yeah, local news. I'm in a good situation, whereas the company I work for, which is Park Broadcasting, we're nationwide. We have 7 AM, 7 FM, 7 TVs. And in my market, we have an AM, FM TV. So the local news that I do, and I only do local news in drives, morning and afternoon drive, is done by the anchor people from my TV station. Because I have excellent local news, but it's only in the drive periods.
Okay, how about contests? Do you do contests?
Oh boy, do I do year-round. I never stop.
And what do you give away? What are some of your contests?
This last contest I had was I gave away a trip a week. First of all, you could win a lunch a day at a very fine restaurant. Then one day out of the week we'd draw. It was just my drawing. You'd win lunch in Orlando, Florida. I'd fly you and a friend down to Orlando for lunch on Delta and bring you back the same day.
Did you swap out ad time for this?
At the time, actually, from Delta was donated. They just, it was not a trade for advertising, no, for promotional mention. I did not give them spots, per se, for the trips. But I did that for 13 weeks. That was great. Now, this time, coming up, I've got orange balls, antenna balls, go on top of your antenna. We'll be spotting those and giving away various different things, small prizes. And the grand prize at the end of the, this is a rating contest, will be a 7-day cruise to the Caribbean for 2, all expenses paid, and 2 prizes, a first and second prize, if you will, of weekends in Virginia Beach. Now, at the same time I'm doing this, I'm also working with Commodore Cruise Lines, Eastern Airlines, and a local travel agent. I'm going to be selling this cruise also. This is a separate deal. This is bought time. And I'll be selling this cruise as a country cruise. We have a major country act on board this cruise ship. I'm going to host it, and we'll take a couple hundred people on this cruise. They'll have to pay for it, though. One couple will get to go for free.
Okay.
So I'm generating advertising dollars, and I'm running a contest at the same time.
Okay, but don't you run contests, don't radio people run contests basically during ratings times? Isn't that when most of the contests are?
That's when your big contests are, yeah. But in my case, I run contests year-round. At least once a week I have what I call Winner's Wednesday, where on a given Wednesday, every Wednesday, I give away something from 6 a.m. till midnight, once an hour. It could be tickets to a concert, it could be albums, it could be T-shirts.
Well, and what does
Every
this do for
Wednesday.
listeners? Does it get you new listeners? Does it keep your old listeners? I mean, why are you doing
Both.
it?
Both. It adds a little excitement, that's all. I'm going to give you something, you know. I'm basically buying you. But if the prize is no good, I'm not going to buy you long.
Is it very lucrative to be in radio?
Financially for who?
For the people working?
Of course not.
What's a beginning person in radio make?
Beginning disc jockey. 12 and under.
And
I've seen beginning disc jockeys making $9,600 a year.
Okay, how about as they move up with more experience, 5, 10 years experience?
Now, if they stay as a jock, and let's say they're not a Larry Lou Jack or Don Imus, they're just a pretty good jock, probably 20, 25, top out.
And program directors, music directors?
Music directors generally get about the same thing as a jock, not much more. That's a music director is sort of a stepping stone to programming. Okay, they give you the title and you get to play with the music and you learn, but they do give you some extra shekels to do it. Then you go to the programming. Again, I've seen program directors make as little as 14 and as much as 120,000.
Okay. Thank you, Mike Allen, WTVR in Richmond, Virginia. This is Don Cusic for the Music Biz.